So we're always against the clock. So without further ado, let me welcome Penny Francis. Do you want to stand or sit? Or?
Probably sit.
Sit?
Yeah.
Okay, let's try and sit.
That's okay. Thank
Penny
you.
is a member of the Writers' Workshop, and Penny, your debut novel is out literally right about now.
Yes.
And I believe this is your first event where you have been live speaking about it with the published book in your hands.
Yes.
Is that right? So I think we should just first of all go, wow, well done. Because I'm imagining I'm speaking mostly to an audience of writers who know how hard that is. And maybe that's my first question. How hard was it to get to that position, Penny?
It's a slog, a very long slog is all I can say. I mean, I started writing this book in
I don't know.
in 2009.
Yeah.
And, you know, various life events getting in the way, work, family, all the rest of it. Finished the first draft after about 5 years, and then really colossally big family crises happened, but then finally got the book able to, in a state that I felt I could start sending it out in 2017. You know, it's just been published now. So then, you know, I rewrote it 3 times following comments from one agent who then rejected it, but her comments were useful. Mm-hmm. And then twice for the Fantastic Books, who are the publishers, who finally took it on, but they made rewrite it twice. So yeah, a lot. It's hard.
It's a lot harder than people think, isn't it? Which is why you need a community alongside you, I think, because it's tricky to do it alone, I think.
Yeah, I think, and it's just a question of well, not expecting it to, you know, to be over in a year or whatever. I mean, I know some people, anyway, and just keeping going. And in the end, with me, it was just stubbornness, I think. Mm-hmm. Just thought, well, I've invested so much time and energy in this now. So what a waste that would be if I don't. So just pushing on until finally, yeah.
Well done. One of the things you hear people say about writing is, I've seen those little memes on Facebook or something where it says, you know, they say you have to love your story because you're going to, you know, write the book that you want to read because you're going to have to reread it thousands of times. And
sorry.
That is the case, isn't it? So did you really love your story? Did you believe in that story? And what gave you the idea for that story originally? Where did it come from?
Okay, the story of my book is the story of the
usually the sound is really
good.
A
young Sheffield teenager who goes in search of his sperm donor father. He's given the details of the father when he's 18, and he goes in search of him in northwest Scotland. And that, you know, the idea for that came from my own experience of having used a sperm donor to conceive my son. However, I used someone known. I was a lesbian, and, you know, I used someone known. Mm-hmm. It's just it was a donor rather than the usual way. But I knew of a lot of women who'd used donors in various ways, and I heard a story of this couple who had a child, but with a sort of semi-anonymous informal donor, who gave them details so that the child, when she was 18, could trace him if she chose. She duly did do that, and he just told her he didn't want to know. And that sort of stuck with me, and I just thought, that might be quite hard, really. It's probably harder than not having the option in the first place. And so that just sort of sowed a seed. But then I never just wanted it to be about that, really. So I wanted it to be a bit of an adventure. So I was at the time going up to Scotland on my husband, often on the back of my husband's motorbike, and having, you know, that was quite an adventure. So I just thought, no, I've got to take him there. So and also motorbikes had to feature. So the donor dad runs this kind of quirky Highland motorcycle museum. And then I also didn't just want it to be about him. I wanted it to be a wider thing. So I've introduced this other character called Jez, who is a young biker adoptee from a very different background. And so she provides a sort of wider perspective, and then he comes across people on the way, like this homeless young people, that kind of thing. And just in the end, it's about whoever your parents are, whether they're biological or not, or whatever your circumstance, it's about the need to move beyond what they have left you, what they've given you, in order to have a true rite of passage. So I sort of call it a road movie rite of passage novel.
That sounds clear. I think that's why I find that the hardest thing as a writer when I write a novel is trying to explain what it is. And,
it is
the
hard.
book I'm writing at the moment, I'm on my 3rd draft, and every time I redraft it, the question at the heart of it is, no, that's not it. No, it's about this. No, it's about that. No, I find that the hardest, the hardest bit.
Yes, you have to sort of, I mean, can I just, I mean, just what you said, did you love it all the time? Actually, honestly, no.
Do you love it now?
I mean, yeah, I kind of fallen back in love with it, because after a bit you think, oh, I've moved on now.
Yeah.
I'm not, I've got other things I'm right, and it took me so long that in a way it's just like, oh, I'm just going to have to keep going with it and almost pretend I love it. But I am loving it again now.
What's it like to hold the book in your hands?
Yeah, no, it's good. And I even read once the paperback was out, I read it myself. I thought, oh, I may as well read it if other people are reading it. And I thought, oh, it's not too bad. It's actually quite good.
That's good. I'm just going to ask you, because I know you said what your tips for aspiring writers would be, and then I'm going to ask you to choose a little extract to read. So.
Okay, so I mean, I think I've already touched on my top tip really is you have to keep going, you have to commit. And there's this quote from Picasso, I think it is Picasso. This is inspiration may strike, but it has to find you working. And to me, that is very true. It's not like you just suddenly get hit. You might get hit by a great idea, but you're not going to develop it. Nothing's going to happen unless you sit down and make yourself right, even when you don't want to. You commit to it, and you commit to doing it on a regular basis, however that fits. And then you'll find, and I've found, then I make these commitments to myself that I break all the time, so then I have to recommit. But in the end, you have to be found working. I think that's one thing. And can I manage another one?
Yeah.
Yeah, another one would be, don't be too precious, really. Be open to feedback. Get to the end of the first draft, for starters, as quickly as you can. Don't keep going back and endlessly fiddling. Because I see the first draft as like the clay, and then you're going to make a pot out of that clay. Unless you've got the clay, you can't make the pot. And then also, I've been with this lovely group of women here, my writers group, been with for a good 20 years. We meet every fortnight and give each other feedback on our work, and they have helped me grow through this step by step. And it would have been so much harder without them. And then when I have had feedback from an agent that, as I say, rejected it, but it was useful feedback.
It's quite rare to get feedback from an agent, actually, isn't it?
Yeah, and they said to me, and I was like, oh, she's got to be joking. And they said, take it as a gift. You pay 400 quid for that kind of feedback.
Yeah.
So so be open and one last thing I read recently was there's no such, don't call your final draft because it isn't, it won't be. Yeah. So don't call it your final draft.
I work on Google Docs, and mine are called like final draft.
Exactly.
Final draft 2023. Final draft editing act 1. Edit this one, because then I start editing the wrong one, and then I'm like, oh no, I've now edited the wrong thing. Like, oh god. Yeah. I'm going to let you read something, Penny.
Yeah.
And I'm going to get off the stage. And before I do that, I'm just going to say 3 cheers for Penny and her writing group.
So, as I've said, I've described this book as a road movie adventure. And here, in this extract, we have Gethin persuaded onto the back of Jez's Harley after they meet at his sperm donor's motorbike museum. So they're travelling up the Scottish coast, and they stop for a break in Ullapool. And Jez admits that she hasn't actually got her full bike test, and therefore isn't legal on this bike. And Gethin declines to ever get on this bike again. So Is it too close? Is that better? Yeah, okay. Did you hear that well enough? Anyway, okay. So I'm just taking you in there. Did you feel unsafe on the bike, Gethin? Jez asks. Well, a bit. No, but the point is, you're not insured, I insist. You see plenty of shit riders who've passed their test. But why not just take the fucking test? I didn't have time. Martin gave me a crash course. Oh, ha ha. He thinks I'm a natural. And how many blowjobs did that cost you? Now who's being funny? Shit. Just when I had the moral high ground. Okay, that was uncalled for. Fucking idiot. She shrugs, avoiding looking at me. Why did you have to get away in such a hurry? I try. She pulls her jacket on. Don't want to talk about it. All right, as in none of my business, but it seriously takes the piss. You not telling me you're not legal on that bike. Okay, I can't run off and do my test now, can I? No, just, well, my argument is literally falling apart, even though I'm right. She tucks her helmet under her arm. I know what I'm doing with the bike. There's no traffic and about one policeman for every 100 square miles. We've only got 70 to go. I look at the photo I posted on my phone, remember the high of the ride up here. I don't do reckless, but what the actual fuck have I got to go home for? 30 miles in, am I relaxed enough to actually enjoy this ride? The road skirts round the loch sides, twisting up through forested hills, emerging onto scrubby moorland and massive cloud-studded skies, then down to a single track. Jez is taking it slower. Perhaps it's that not legal conversation. Now I'm wishing she'd go a bit faster. The road dips down to a little ford, the forest closing in on both sides. She slows and I follow her lean into the bend, catch a whiff of pine, the crisscross of the tree's dark shadow, hear her scream before I see it, standing in the road about 10 meters away. A deer, smallish, but big fucking enough. Jez bangs on the horn and slams on the brakes, my face ramming into her jacket. I smell the leather, tighten my grip as the bike shudders, glint of the deer's eyes zooming closer. Road rising as Jez slings the bike to the right, but the gap looks too narrow. Wish I'd called Mum. Will Dom regret? Scream of the horn, smell of burning rubber, and we're inches from the deer when suddenly it moves across the road and the bike judders past it. Jez slows right down, punches the air. Yes! She pulls over at the next passing space. Unbe-fucking-lievable, she shouts. Are you okay? I'm shivering clammy, shaking my head as my visor steams up. Somehow I manage to get off the bike, and she helps me unfasten my helmet. Freaking near miss that. I lean forward, sweat dripping. A cool breeze whips across the treetops. I inhale the pine-clean air. At least there'll be no insurance claims from a deer, Jez jokes. I don't respond, take some more breaths. Oh, come on, Gethin. It was shit scary, right? But you've got to admit, I handled it well. She passes a bottle of Lucozade Sport. I stand slowly to take a draught. I was never one for white knuckle rides. I shouldn't have agreed to come. You hung on. I got us through, she says. I'll take it really slow. I look up and down the empty road. I don't suppose I have much choice, but I'll be getting the bus home from Durness. She lights us both a fag and sits herself down on the roadside. I crouched down to join her, watch the light between the trees, and I feel a lift of something more than the welcome hit of nicotine. Despite the fear, there's this rising excitement for life that I haven't felt for a long time. And I was about to suggest you went a bit faster, I laugh. You're turning me into an adrenaline junkie. She lights up with the biggest gap-toothed smile, and I could snog her face off. I'm glad I'm like a ghoul to cover the sudden hard-on, but I can't help my massive, stupid grin.
I was just going to say, you've got books for sale if you would like some. Do you want to say anything else?
Yeah. And we've also got a little book from the writing group of
Yeah.
Walking the Porter.
There's a book of poetry of Walking the Porter Valley as well. So thank you, Penny. Well done.